Hello and welcome to this video tutorial for Prog 1210 Rapid Application Development. This video will take us through the process of creating a drop-down in the instrument column so that we can provide for the users a list of instruments in our instrument table. To begin, we're going to go to Edit Templates and edit the Edit Item template for the instrument table. We're choosing Edit Item because this is the way that the grid view looks when we're in edit mode. Currently there's a text box here, and if we take a look at the data bindings of the text box, you'll see that it's bound to the musician inst ID field. This is the field that corresponds to the foreign key in the musician entity. We want to make sure that our data binding of our dropdown is still connected to this field when we change it. We start by deleting the text box. Now I'm going to drag and drop a drop-down list into this space. To populate the drop-down list, I'm going to have to create a data source that lists all of the instruments from our instrument table. In order to do so, I'm going to go to the data group and create a second entity data source. We need two data sources because the data source for musician would have duplicates and some values missing from the list of possible instruments. So to keep this one different, we're going to configure it so that it shows us data from the instrument table. This time I'll choose Instruments as the entity set and choose Instrument as the type. For the resulting properties, because we're just creating a dropdown, we don't need all of the values. We only need inst ID, which will give us the ID number for the foreign key, and inst name, which will give us the instrument name that we can display in the dropdown. Click Finish. I'm going to rename our dropdown so that it has an appropriate ID. The name that I'm choosing is EDS for Entity Data Source, Instrument List. Now we can use this data source as the source for our drop-down list. So I'm going to open the Tasks menu and select Choose Data Source and choose our EDS instrument list as the data source. We want to select the instrument name field to display. If they're not appearing here, you can click on the Refresh Schema link at the bottom. We're going to display the instrument name, but use the ID as the value. Click OK here. This populates our dropdown, so each instrument will be listed there only once. Next, we need to edit the data bindings. You'll remember that we want to make sure our field is bound to the correct field in the musician table. So from the dropdown, select Musician Inst ID. This is the same field that the text box was bound to before. Click OK here. We'll run our project and make sure that our dropdown is working correctly. So here's our grid view. When we go into edit mode, you'll see if we scroll to the right that now we have a drop-down of instrument selections, and we can choose an instrument from the table. When we click Update, our new instrument is appearing in the list. The last change that we're going to make to this is reordering the list of instruments, because you'll see in the dropdown the instruments are sorted based on their instrument ID. This is the order that they're sorted in the database table as well. We want to sort this list alphabetically. So in order to do this, I'm just going to make a change to the way that the data source works. So select EDS Instrument List Data Source and look over at the Properties window. You'll see here that several of the properties determine how the information is selected from our database context object. You'll see in the Select group The fields we're selecting are it.instaid and it.instaName. In order to change the sorting order, we can use the order by property. So we can use the same syntax as it appears in the select property and type in for order by it.instaName. Now if we run our project again, we'll see that the drop-down list of available instruments is ordered alphabetically by instrument name. This concludes the video tutorial on creating a grid view to work with entity data sources.